I'm Nancy. I'm an alcoholic. Woohoo! Thank you, Alice. I just love you, and she's my mini me. So when you hear my story and my deformities, you'll go maybe yep. I don't know. She might show you a different side than the real Alice. But I'm so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. My sobriety date's April 7th, 1984. I just celebrated 40 years, but I want to reassure anybody and everybody that I am in the remedial group of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am not mad about it because it keeps me struggling, it keeps me searching, and it keeps me from being too full of myself. It's just like sometimes I think I'm going to get out of that remedial group, and then my sponsor puts me right back down in it. I had with all my time in sobriety, it was just tell you a recent story. I can talk about, my topic. There's a direct linkage between self-examination, meditation, and prayer. I love that because step 10 is my jam. I love, love, love it. And before Alcoholics Anonymous, and even well into Alcoholics Anonymous, the thing about step 10 is I have to see myself clearly, right? I could not. Everything that happened was a result of what you did to me, right? So anyway, it's Christmas morning. I live with my daughter. My daughter moved in with me when my husband died a few years ago. She has two kids, 4 and 10, beautiful grandkids. We have a beautiful relationship mostly, right? So on Christmas morning, I'm having my stepkids and a bunch of people come over for Christmas. My grandson had gotten real sick, so my daughter was not able to help me. She's out in her room with him and real sick. And so I'm running around trying to get everything ready. And I see my granddaughter sitting there, age 10, and I ask her to vacuum this little area of rug for me. And she said something like, "Oh, I don't know how to vacuum." And I stopped and my eyes almost came out of my head, like the mask, like to go over there and zap her and come back. And I was just like, oh my God. And I thank God for the pause. That's one of the things I want to talk about. God is in the pause. My sponsor says it's PAR. Pause when agitated or doubtful. Ask for the right thought or direction. Remember that God's running the show. And when I can pause, I know I'm on it, right? And I paused and I just backed up and I called my sponsor at 10 o'clock in the morning on Christmas morning. And I love my sponsor because she took my call. She didn't say, "I'm too busy for you, babe," or "You got to call when during 9 to 5, Monday through Friday." And I told her what happened. And she said, "It might be a conversation," she said, "but probably not on Christmas." And be able to see that, you know what I mean? Like I have the ability, and I'm not proud of it, left untreated, left without my prayer and meditation and my willingness to see myself clearly, I can ruin Christmas. You know what I mean? I can ruin any day, but I can ruin Christmas with my heinousness, and there's a line in the big book that says, even in our best moments, we're a producer of confusion. And I believe that most people would say, yeah, I know in my worst moments, I can be bad. But my literature tells me that in my best moments, I'm a producer of confusion, left untreated, left untreated. And, I need a lot of treatment because, I heard a speaker say last week at a conference that my character defects keep pace with my recovery. Like I'm trying to get recovered. My defects are just right behind. It's just like they're just keep coming at me. They have not disappeared. They just seem to be just coming back. Sorry if you're new and you're thinking that there might be some peace about it. Good luck to you. But, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And, real quickly, I started drinking when I was 20. I wasn't going to drink because I came from a family of winners, non-drinkers. And I was at a party and they spiked I had said no to drinking several times, but they spiked the punch with Strawberry Hill wine, and I drank the punch, and I went from being a wallflower, self-centered, filled with fear that I had always been my whole life to the middle of the party. People were dancing around me, calling my name, going, "Nancy, Nancy, Nancy," which really didn't happen, but it happened for me that day. That's what happened for me, and it changed my life. It was the most spiritual thing that had ever happened to me up until that time. It was magical, right? And it changed me, and it changed my perception. I have a perception problem, which is one of the reasons I need this program, right? The way I look at things left untreated, I'll look at something and I'll make it be all about me, or someone's talking about me, or I take offense, and my sponsor said many times, you don't have to take the offense. If someone says, Nancy, you're, this, and this, which they have said, I don't have to take it. And someone says, Nancy, would you like a drink? I can say, no, thank you. I don't care for a drink. I don't drink. But if someone says, Nancy, you're a piece of crap or whatever, oh, I can't believe you said that. Like, I don't have to take that offense, right? But anyway, alcohol was magical for me, and I drank for 10 years. And in that 10 years I drank, it was violent boyfriends. It was arrests for prostitution. It was abortions. It was promiscuity. It was craziness. And on the other hand, I started working at a restaurant. It was part of my probation from my arrest, as I couldn't work at any nude modeling studios anymore. And I started working at a restaurant, and I became the first woman manager for this company. So I had the double life, that they talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous. And, I finally made manager. It was just, it was a crazy, crazy life of drinking, right? But I finally made manager, and I'm like, I thought that was the thing that was going to finally make me happy. Like, I have spent my whole life looking outside of myself for something to make me feel, to fix this big void that I have, this spiritual malady, right? And getting what I wanted, and that's not being it. When I was 11, I didn't get enough Christmas gifts. And so I badgered my mom into getting me the thing I finally wanted, which was this Elvis Presley album, Girl Happy. So she gets it for me. I bring it home, I put it on the stereo, and it starts to play, Girl Happy, Girl Happy. And it was like, well, that wasn't it. Like, the things of the world, all that stuff cannot fix and fill me up, right? But, that's a lifelong journey. And even today, when I'm driving by the mega lotto $1 million, I'm like, I can get in the fantasy of, I have a great, fantastic, beautiful AA life. But one more thing, I just had one more thing, that chronic wanting more. And, but anyway, I made manager, and that was, the thing that was going to change my life. And there was a big thud after that, because that wasn't it. Right. And, long story short, through a series of events, I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous. Right. And I thought my life was over, and I did not want to be an alcoholic. And, I had to surrender to this program because I kept, I could not stop drinking, and I tried to do AA Light for quite a while. Once I knew I had a problem, what happened was I had gone to a party, a Christmas party for the employees after I made manager, and I was only going to have a few drinks and congratulate everybody on a successful year. But I didn't know I couldn't have 2 drinks, right? And I was living with this crazy guy that used to beat me up, and I ended up 8 hours later, still there sipping on gin and juice. And I was wearing this dress that tied around my neck. And I guess I was rocking the Cabbage Patch too vigorously. And my top fell off, and I ended up exposing myself to the cooks and the dishwashers and everybody. And, it was like, I was pretty cute, but no one said, damn, Bosch, you're hot. You know what I mean? Like, it was awkward. And I leave in my car, and I got pulled over by the police and they were giving me the sobriety test to give me a drunk driving. And what happened for me was I'm really grateful to alcohol, because I feel like alcohol saved my life. Like, I was raised normally, but there's something wrong with me. There's something broken inside me, which I'm not mad about. I'm not mad about that, because the solution is so beautiful, right? But I thought alcohol was the solution to my problems, right? If I had a bad day at work, I got drunk. If my boyfriend beat me up, I got drunk. Can't pay the bills, I got drunk, right? But this night, I just exposed myself to the employees that I have to supervise the next day. I'm either going to go to jail or get beat up by my boyfriend, because I've been gone for 8 hours. And just for one split second, probably my first spiritual experience, I saw that alcohol was the problem and not the solution. And my drinking was never the same. It took me a long time to surrender to this program, because, for a long, long time and well into this program, I thought self-sufficiency was a good thing. I had it mixed up with self-supporting. Self-supporting is like, I'm not too dependent on, can take care of myself financially, emotionally. I'm not dependent on my spouse or my parents or other people for my well-being. Self-supporting, good. Self-sufficiency means I don't need anybody. I don't need you. I don't need anybody. And I thought it was a good thing. And I had accomplished quite a lot I had a lot of bad stuff happen. But so I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and this first part of step 1 is I'm powerless over alcohol. Okay, you got me. You got me there. I can see I'm powerless over alcohol. All the events that happened, I know I can't drink anymore. But my life is manageable by me. I thought it was manageable by me. That second half of step 1. And so, when I was in college for a few minutes there, my psychology was my major, and I used to go to all this self-help stuff. I had the I'm okay, you're okay. Some of you old folks will remember that bumper sticker. I was never okay, but I had the bumper sticker, all the self-help stuff. And my first sponsor said, she says, reading a self-help book is like peeing your pants. She says, at first it feels all nice and warm, but then it turns cold on you. Because there might be good stuff and good information in those self-help books, but I cannot apply it to my life. Alcoholics Anonymous is a spiritual program. I'm a car that's stuck in reverse. No amount of stepping on the gas is going to help me to go forward. I have to be empowered by someone, the program, God, my sponsor, to be what I'm powerless to be on my own. Like, all information does not help me, right? Without being able to apply it to my life. And, so when we first read step 1 with my sponsor in the 12 and 12, who wishes to admit complete defeat? Not me, right? Nobody. And even when I was raising my kids, if my kids failed at something, I didn't say, oh, well, you're powerless. Don't worry about it. Don't even try. What do we say? Try again. Put your back into it. You can do it. Don't, get back on the horse. So that surrender to I can't run my life is, it says we come into Alcoholics Anonymous with a terrific beating administered by alcohol. And then, okay, I surrender to that. And then there's a terrific beating administered by life on life's terms in Alcoholics Anonymous, even to this day. Not all bad, but just like, a surrender to I'm not in charge, a surrender to I'm not in charge, a surrender to my will doesn't work. And this is, a daily reprieve based on the maintenance of my spiritual program, which is a lot. I wake up in the morning. First thing my head tells me is, why didn't you go to bed earlier? You're undisciplined. You should have turned the TV off earlier. It just starts whirling. I don't try to think that way. When I go to bed at night, I'm usually pretty good. I usually go to a meeting, 5 to 6 meetings a week because of, commitments and stuff like that. I go to a lot of meetings. I have a lot of sponsees. I pray. I'm in the middle. I do all the fellowship. I do all the stuff. So at night, I feel pretty good. I'm pretty, I'm pretty good about my 10th step. Not because I want to be, but because I keep making mistakes. I want the program where I never make the mistake, where I'm effortlessly able to sail like the thing with my granddaughter, where I would just have the perfect reaction at that time and say, oh, well, we can talk about it later, right? I don't have that program, but I'm not mad about that either, because if I had that program, first of all, I'd be a boring speaker, because if everybody just sailed through life, we'd fall asleep listening to them talk about walking hand in hand with God. I love the people that don't get it right, but they keep trying and they learn something each time it happens, right? And so anyway, I come into the program and I have to surrender. And it took me a really long time for me to be able to do a 10 step, because I could not be wrong. The self-examination. I could not be wrong. You know how the book talks about, well, it might have been me a little bit, but if you hadn't have said what you said, I wouldn't have had to call you a bitch. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm a little bit wrong, but not like wrong. And, what happened for me is a tremendous experience was when I had about 10 years sober. I was married, and my husband returned to drinking, and he had an affair, and I was crazy, and I was completely insane, and I wanted to divorce him, but I couldn't, so I just made his life a living hell all the time. And what happened is I got deaf to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they say that resentment cuts us off from the sunlight of the spirit, And this resentment cut me off from my higher power because I felt like even though AA says there's no justified resentments, I'm pretty sure cheating on your husband or wife is a justified resentment. Come on, people. You know what I mean? It's like, really? There's no I shouldn't feel bad about this because there's no justified resentments. I got deaf to Alcoholics Anonymous, completely deaf to Alcoholics Anonymous. And this went on for a long time till I finally got in enough pain to be willing to work my program again, to get back into it. And, this next time, and this is after 10 years of sobriety, for me, it's been slow-briety, right? When I did my inventory again after some couple of years of hanging on and being resentful and having no God in my life and being crazier than crazy, I was finally able to look at myself and do some writing. And one of the things I wrote about was in one of my drinking experiences. I had a guy I'd gotten one of my boyfriends, we'd gotten in a fight, and he grabbed a butcher knife, and I was in my underwear, and I ran out on the street, and he was trying to stab me with a butcher knife, which he didn't, and we made up and get back in the department. But I'm writing about this with 10 years, and I felt like I really worked I really tried to work my program. I did the best that I could. But I saw that right before he grabbed the butcher knife, I had gone over to where he was sitting, and I took a beer, and I just dumped it and poured it out on his head. And he jumped up, he got pissed off, grabbed the knife, and started chasing me, And what happened was that I was able to have a chink in the wall that my ego had built to be able to have God get his fingers in that crack and open it up so that I could see that I had a part in everything that happened to me. I was no innocent victim of all those violent guys. I was no innocent victim of this guy. I had aggravated someone's defects of character, right? And it helped me to see, in my desire to be a good, sober mom, I had lavished attention on my daughter. I had moved my daughter into the bedroom between my husband and me because I thought if I got it right, she wouldn't be an alcoholic. And by getting it right is by loving her enough. And, so I didn't have marital relations with my husband. And not only that, I made her my intimacy in my life. And so, when I finally did my writing about that and read it to my sponsor, and she said, Nancy, even when you're right, the way you're right is wrong. And being able to see that I had a part in everything that happened to me was life-changing. Being able to see myself clearly is the key to a relationship with my higher power for me. Left to my own devices, I think my natural character defects is to think it's not me. Today, I had one of my sponsees come over. Her character defects manifest in that she's a piece of crap. She's unworthy. There's no point. She can't do it right. So she just threw in the towel. And that's how she came to me today. And my natural defects of character say it wasn't me. It wasn't me at all. If my granddaughter had vacuumed, I wouldn't have had to have my eyes pop out of my head. And I just thought it was so beautiful that neither one of us have humility in that moment. When I'm always right, there's no humility. And by humility, I don't know, that word for me is teachable, or to be right-sized, or to be small, not small less than, but small to my sponsor. When my sponsor hands me my butt on a plate, I want to say, okay, instead of I know. When my boss says, Nancy, I want you to do X, Y, Z, and I think he's completely wrong, to just say, okay. When my husband says, I want to drive on the road trip, and he's the world's worst driver that you could imagine, and to just say, okay, I'm going to let you be the man. That's the kind of humility I'm looking for. And so when I'm talking to my gal this morning and we're talking about this, right, she didn't have humility because she's never right. That's not where God wants us to be. He wants me to be honestly looking at my deformities. And when I see myself clearly, that's when I fall to my knees and say, oh my God, I cannot be different without you. I cannot be different. About a couple years ago, this gal that I sponsored that I just loved, oh my God, I loved her. She had lived with my husband and me for a couple years while she was getting herself together. She was just the most beautiful person, loved her. Well, she ended up letting me go as a sponsor. And it was right before COVID, thank God, because I only had to see her in a little box, right? And so I did a 10th step on her, got a little bit of relief, but not really. Did another 10th step on her, could not get relief over the pain that it caused me that she dumped me, right? So the last time I wrote about her, which was about a year ago, this is how my writing started. I'm resentful at Toni. Why? She didn't like my Facebook post. Come on, people. I'm 40 years sober. She didn't like I'd posted something, a beautiful tribute to my husband, and it was our anniversary, and he'd been dead a couple of years, and she loved my husband. And here's a beautiful picture of me and my husband. I'm not an over poster. I only post once in a while. And she didn't like my Facebook post. And I saw myself clearly. So, oh my God, how petty can I be? I'm so loved. Like Alla said, it's all about love. I am so loved by so many people, including this girl. And I'm obsessed and resentful because she didn't like my Facebook post. Grow up, Nancy. Grow up. But I can't see that on my own. I have to do the self-examination and then ask God to remove that defect or see myself clearly. And I'm grateful that I can take a hit. I'm grateful that I can see myself clearly and be wrong. I'm grateful. I have learned to laugh at myself, and believe me, I could not. Nothing was funny when I got to AA, and for a long time. And then for a long time, you couldn't laugh at me or bag on me or make fun of me. I was at a steering committee meeting, I don't know, a few months ago, and we were talking about changing the time of our meeting from 8 o'clock to 7:30. And I was the 7:30 group. And this guy, a guy I really love in the program, was arguing with me, and he was just like, I don't know, we should keep it, blah, 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 for all the reasons he had. And then finally he stopped and he said, you know what? That's a good idea. He says, I'm just fighting it because it's you. And I'm not mad about that. I'm a heinous and annoying and obnoxious left on treatment. And I just keep driving like I just was hammering my point. There was no room for anyone else to say anything about, because Nancy Cook to the rescue of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's going to go to 7:30. Just, I can't on my own see myself. And it's like, but that didn't hurt me. I was like, yes, you're right. You're right, Rocky. You know what I mean? Like, and then we've been laughing about it ever since. But to be able to be laughed at for my heinous, it's just like, oh my God, that's just such a freedom. I don't think it's funny, and I'm not laughing at the fact that I have defects and I don't care. I'm heinous and I don't care. I totally do care. But just to see, I think that God is in the humor. I think really, that's how I feel, is that my higher power just adores me no matter how I am, right? That he just sees me clearly and really adores me. And, and I have to try to remember, the best things that have happened to me in my life have been God's will. But yet I still sometimes try, like Don Quixote, I go out there with my thing thinking that I play God. I think I know what's best for the meetings. I know what's best for everybody. I know what's best for my daughter. My poor daughter, I've always got an opinion on what she should do with the grandkids. I might be right, but the way I'm right, or it's none of my business. She's free to do what she wants with her kids, to be able to take stock of myself and ask God to help me be different. But I can't ask me if I'm just for me, if I'm just generally praying, make me an instrument of thy peace, without specifics. I find that the specifics, when I see myself clearly, and I just can't do it right. The book talks about we use our education to blow us into prideful balloons hovering above everybody, although we're careful to hide it from people. Well, my education being my opinions on Alcoholics Anonymous, my opinions on motherhood, my opinions on everything. And you can see my big red balloon of resentment and judgment hovering over you. I'm like Pigpen when I walk into a room. I don't have to say anything. You can smell me, right? You can smell me coming in. It's like, there's Nancy with her judgment comes in. I could just whip down a room, right? And conversely, I can bring a room up. Conversely, I can be the light bulb of joy to a room when I'm treated. And mostly I'm like that, right? Mostly I'm like that, right? I'm talking tonight about the kind of awareness from seeing myself clearly. And I guess the last thing I'll share, on my AA birthday, I was walking at the park, which was a few months ago. I got 40 years. It's awesome, right? I'm so grateful. And the park that I walk at has a dirt track, like a walking path. It's about a half mile. And I walk pretty early in the morning, 6:30, and I'm walking around this track. And they rent out like the cabanas, at the park, where they have the actual benches and the shade over it. And I go by, and there's a guy sitting there in the park at the bench, and he's got, I don't know, about 100 gold and pink balloons, and he's just sitting there holding those balloons at the park bench. And I don't think anything the first time I go by. I'm listening to my spiritual playlist, which is banging, banging. And music, I love music when I'm doing my prayer and meditation. Anyway, so I come by the second time and I start thinking, here's this guy now. It looks like there's going to be a party, a birthday party, probably for a girl. I'm stereotyping, but gold and pink balloons. This guy sitting, no one is coming to that party. It's 6:30 in the morning till 10. There's no birthday parties happening at this park at 6:30. But this guy is just sitting there holding those balloons. And I think I come by it the third time and I think, I had a spiritual experience like this is God for me. Every morning he's sitting there with a bouquet of gold and pink balloons for me, Nancy Cook. I'm assuming that this was the guy's dad or an uncle or something. He's just sitting there as happy as he could be holding these balloons. He's going to be holding them for hours, waiting for the party to happen. So happy to be doing something for someone he loved. So happy. And this is God for me every day. But here's me, oh, God, I stayed up too late, da-da-da. God is waiting with the balloons for me to make me happy every day. I just have to find a way to grab those balloons and say, thank you, God, and be agreeable and say, I love the balloons that you got for me today. Not, I wish you had gotten me. I don't like pink so much. I mean, this is me. I'm making this up. This could be me. Oh, I really don't like pink. Purple's my color, whatever. You know what I mean? I want to accept gladly God's will. And only way I can do that is by turning it over, looking at myself clearly, clearing away my craziness so that God can come into my life. And so I'm really grateful, and thanks for letting me share.
Hey, I'm Alice. I'm still an alcoholic. And Nancy, thank you so much for showing up tonight. And thank you for just being a ray of sunshine. I'm gonna ask for hands, but I'd like to start us off by asking you to say more about PAR. The Pause Ask PAR. Your sponsor asks you to do.
Oh yes, pause. It's in the big book, and I'm not sure what page, but it says we pause when agitated, ask for the right thought or direction. Remember that God's running the show. And one of the things that I've tasked my sponsees with for the new year is coming up with 2 to 3 things how we would like to be different, not just necessarily spiritually, but like I need sunglasses. I've needed them for 6 months because the doctor said I could have macular degeneration. I've put it on a new list. So, taking care of some stuff like that. But one of the things that is my spiritual goal is to have a longer fuse on the pause. Like the thing that happened with my granddaughter at Christmas. I was so grateful that I did not have to, because untreated, I can take somebody down. I can have a vicious, it hasn't happened for a really long time, but I can be vicious and I can just eviscerate you, but I had the pause. And so my spiritual goal for myself is to really pray every day. The steps I'm going to have is to ask God every day for that pause, to be able to stop, because God is in that pause. I'm able to have a different reaction to something if I'm able to pause. And so that's I just want a longer fuse. I know the fuse isn't going to disappear. I just want it to be longer before I have the reaction.
Thank you. Seeing no hands, I'm going to do what it is my privilege to do. Ah, Lynn, you saved us from Russian roulette. Come on in.
Thank you so much, everyone who's in service at this meeting. Nancy, what an awesome share. I just enjoyed you thoroughly, laughed, and my belly. Yeah. I have a curious question because you talked about 10 step, for up to 10 years into your sobriety. There was a shift at that point, it sounded like, where you actually were able to really see yourself. And I was wondering if you remember what happened around that time, I mean, it sounds like you had
Well,
a great.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was a tremendous amount of pain. I probably had some spiritual experience, and since I first came into AA and got my sponsor, since I surrendered to AA and got sober, I've tried to be a good AA, and I've worked the steps. I'm in the middle. I've sponsored, I'm sure I had spiritual experience, but this was so dramatic because my husband drank and had the affair, and I because I got so deaf to God, like I was really, really out there. I would look back as like I think the only reason that I didn't drink is because I've always been a meeting maker. That I went to my meetings no matter what. I mean, I was angry and bitter, but I kept showing up. And what happened was the extreme pain of that made me really have to look at myself clearly, because I guess up until then, my husband would make amends first. He'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was such a jerk." And I'd say, "Well, I'm sorry too." You know what I mean? But I really knew he was a jerk, and that's why I could be sorry too. But he stopped making amends. When he drank, he stopped doing anything. And so I was forced to take that a deeper look at myself than I had my first time around with the steps. Like, I'm sure I'd written about the violent guys in my life, but I had never seen how I exacerbated the situation by being crazy myself, which doesn't make it right for anybody to hit anybody or be violent. But if it's other people are wrong, I never get better, because then everybody has to do it right for me to be okay. And of course, you all know nobody does it right. Not the steering committee, not your boss, not your partner, not your friends. Nobody does it right. So I'm either chronically, constantly upset, or I have to be able to accept people as they are. And I, Nancy Cook, cannot accept people as they are. I have to have my sponsors help, my higher powers help, the program, got a lot of meetings so I can stay in those lanes of knowing that it's me, and, saying, "Oh, well, that guy was just a jerk." Haven't I ever been a jerk? Yes, I have. Right. So why, if I don't accept him for being a jerk, then my friends aren't going to accept me on the times when I show my ass in a meeting, which I have. In 40 years, I can tell you that one time I got in a fight with a girl I sponsor over a chair. We were fighting over a seat at the meeting. Now, I know our seats are sacred, but I mean, so every meeting I go to, people have their seats. But I mean, I was ready to throw blows with her. And this was probably at 30 years sobriety. I'm not proud of it. And I had to make amends the next week to the group, which I did. And so did she. I mean, we were so embarrassed, but it happens. And I want my people to forgive me for acting badly. So then I've got to forgive other people for acting badly. But I can't forgive on my own. I'm an unforgiving bitch left on my own, right? I have to have God, I have to see myself and then ask God to help me be different.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
Calvin, will you come in?
Hello, everyone. My name's Calvin, and I'm an alcoholic. And Nancy, what a good message. I never have a question to answer because the reason why I don't ask no questions is because I identify with everybody. And I identify with you so strongly. I am you. And we work the program just about the same. And so you touch me deeply in my soul tonight. I listen with my spirit. And I heard your spirit. And I heard your honesty. With 40 years of sobriety, you're an honest person. And that is refreshing in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's really refreshing. And I want to tell you, I really feel, thank you for speaking to me, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Calvin. I love you. Allison, you're up.
Thanks, Alice. Hi, I'm Allison Adams, and I am an alcoholic. Thank you, Nancy. I loved your talk so much, and I've been sponsored where I've been held accountable to those step 10s too. And I heard this in your share when you were answering the previous question, is that doing step 10s has, one, not only cleared a channel to give me access to the power, but also helps me see myself clearly, which gives me the ability to let other people off the hook a lot of the times. So I will go into another question, because you talked about how a vigorous beating by alcohol brought us into AA, but you also talked about the beating by living life on life's terms, even into sobriety. And I really identified with that. And I thought, wanted to know if you could share a little bit more about that.
Well, it's just, thank you for your question. That's a good question. It's just, life sometimes doesn't go the way I think it should go. My grandson, found out that my grandson we're not sure if it's autism or oppositional disorder. And now he's starting to manifest some behavior that's, become difficult. And it's just like, that's not what I want. That's not what I wanted to happen. Right. It's just like, I want life to just sail along. I don't want there to be any problems. I don't ever want to have to do a 10-step again as long as I live. I'm content with my B+ program. It's just like, I'm not looking to make a mistake so I can write about it and get closer to God. But that seems to be what happens for me, is that life doesn't go the way I heard a speaker say last week at that great conference I went to, State Line, talked about, ambush, where life ambushes us sometimes. It's not the way it's supposed to happen. And when I'm doing my prayer and meditation, I remember that, the worst things that I thought ever would happen to me, I thought it'd be a bad thing that I was an alcoholic, turned out to be a good thing. I thought it would be a bad thing that my husband, drank and cheated on me. It turned out to be a good thing, because our marriage ended up making it. He ended up getting sober, and but I had made my amends to him long before he got sober, because I could see what I had done to hurt the marriage, right? And then he got sober, he made amends to me, and our marriage made it, and I was grateful for that. But I thought the worst thing was that would happen. It was the best thing. Everything that has happened that I thought was bad has been good, but I forget that because I have spiritual amnesia, right? I forget what God has just done for me. So when my grandson presents that he's got some special challenges, and I mean, he had a hard day the other day, and my normally patient daughter, she's so patient, even lost her patience with this little guy. I mean, it was just, and I just thought, and he lives with me, this is not going to be easy. And so then when my prayers like help me remember that this seems bad at the moment, but every other thing that has seemed bad has been turned to the good. There's going to be some joys in that. But on my own thinking, I can't come with that. So I have to be surrendered again to God's will and not Nancy's will. My will just keeps regenerating. We hear it all the time in meetings. It's just like, we pray in the morning, turn our will and life over, and 10 minutes later, we're, got something to say about everything that somebody does. It's just like thinking my way is best. And, so the surrender is, I wish I could stay surrendered beautifully all day, every day, but then I would be boring. So anyway, thank you.
Amy, please.
Oh, hi there. Hi, yeah, Nancy, thank you so much. I was trying to look up the where exactly it is that it says, because I know that quote too. The in our best moments are, produces of our own chaos. Wow, that was the first time I actually heard that line for the first time. I never heard that line, and in fact, it is completely relatable to me today. I don't really have a question, but I just wanted you to know that really, really helped. I mean, my last 2 months, have been really, really horrifying. I had a relapse. I've got a cold right now too, so please excuse my voice. And I was it put me in a place where today, with all the pain and all the suffering, like I'm beaten to a pulp, and I'm absolutely ready to, like, continue on. I've had the spiritual experience. I've literally gone through hell and back the last 2 months. And yesterday, I had an appointment at the local hospital for a mental health checkup, and I was enlightened to find out that what you were talking about when you were like, angry about the vacuum, I do that too. I can be totally fine. I can be totally sober 8 years on, and then just snap because things are causing me, like, a lot of anxiety. And I think that they need to be done, but they don't necessarily have to, right? Thank you for that line, because that is exactly what I've been going through, and it's what's caused it. So thank you. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for coming in, and we're so glad you're here.
Page 61, Eva, in the big book.
So thank you so much for putting your hand up. I'm so glad you're here. Come on in.
Hi, everyone. Marissa May, alcoholic. It's good to be here with you all this evening. And thank you so much, Nancy, for your lead. So much identification. And I echo the belly laughing was definitely a nice treat tonight. You mentioned in your share that information doesn't help you unless you're empowered to apply it. And I really stuck onto that tonight. I'm wondering if you could share a little more about your practices to stay empowered and to stay plugged in so that information can help you.
Thank you for your question. Well, I try to, I do what I think most of us alcoholics do. We wake up and we hit our knees and we ask for the right thought or direction, ask God to direct my thinking. I do the 3rd step prayer every day. I meditate, not my strongest suit, but, try to meditate and listen to what God has in store for me. I also have a spiritual playlist of crazy eclectic songs, from gospel to country to, because music somehow gets past. I heard once that music affects you kind of like drugs and alcohol. It goes past whatever nerves it is, and it just hits my soul. But, to try to remember through the day, and that's the hardest part for me, I think, is, praying at the standard times, morning and night. I think we're all taught that the minute we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, but stopping during the day is the challenge for me. You know what I mean? Because I really just kind of bludgeon my way, so busy doing God's will sometimes, like a good active alcoholic. We get up, we're of service, we're doing this, we're on this committee, we're working with others, and forgetting, I don't even know what God's will is. I'm so busy running, thinking that I'm doing God's will, and stopping and pausing and saying, is that your will? But, I am definitely in remedial as it relates to this. It's, one day at a time for me. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. My brother. I love you, John. Come on in.
I love you too, Alice. And despite technology, I know how to unmute. I got the power to unmute tonight. Nancy, thank you so much for a beautiful share. My friend Donna J, she told me, close your eyes when you're trying to hear a spiritual message, to hear the message that the person's bringing in. And I did that, and then you have such a peaceful voice, I dozed off for a second. But you had a powerful message, and I think because you're a demonstration, and I know that Alice has a sponsor because she demonstrates that, and it's beautiful to see who inspires her. My question for you is, I have burned many bridges over the years by not pausing in the moment throughout the day. And outside of practicing it consistently, to develop it as sort of a second nature response, what do you find is helpful to remember in the moments that are heated, where it's not so easy to pause, but we know we should?
Well, I have, 10 million experiences where I haven't. And sadly, but a lot more when I have. But I too have, like just that argument with the guy about the time to start the meeting. I just get on one, and I just, it's just like I'm just hammering and hammering. If that doesn't work, I get out a bigger hammer. I'm not proud of it. But the good thing about this self-examination, meditation, and prayer is, and it's so beautiful in step 10 in the 12 of 12. It might be my well, it's my favorite right now, where it talks about, an honest analysis of what's done, uh, willingness to see when I'm wrong, and an equal willingness to forgive when the fault is others. I missed that for a long time. Being able to say, oh my God, I need to be able to forgive and making amends. I could not be wrong I want to say 10 years of my sobriety. I could not be wrong. I felt like maybe I'd disappear. Like if people say, would you rather be right or loved? I'll pick right all day long. I'll find someone else to love me. I mean, I'm not proud of it, but this is just like right. I mean, I could fight to the death about anything, right? One time I was working the steps with a gal, and we were talking about some stuff, and we come in to have dinner with my husband and my daughter and me. And we were talking about why my daughter couldn't walk to school. And I said, oh, because there's no sidewalks on this one part of the road on the way to school. And my husband says, yes, there's sidewalks there. And I say, no, there's not. And he goes, yes, there is. And I'm getting ready to push myself up from the middle of dinner to get in my car and drive down the street to prove that there's sidewalks. For what? To be right about some stupid thing like sidewalks? Well, I didn't, because I had that sponsee there and I had to act better than I feel. And it turns out he was right, which is really shocking. That's a horrible part of that story. But the point is that, to be, just to see how arrogant I am and how crazy I am. But I have the ability now to go and say, when that happens, I'm so sorry, Mickey. I was wrong to make a big deal out of that. I make amends frequently. You know what I mean? Even, my line for myself is, I'm one joke away from an amends every day. Like, I think I'm being funny, and I am a funny person, but sometimes I'm, I just get going. I'm on a roll with funny, and then I just take it a step further, and somehow I'm not funny. And I see it by the look on your face. I can go back and say, you know what? I'm really sorry, Tom, that, that I said what I said. And that's, like I said, I want the program where I never make the mistake, but I don't have that. But at least I have the program to where I can say sorry when I do make the mistake and straighten out relationships. Like, I don't have any people might be upset with me, but I don't have one relationship where I feel like there's something there that I have something that I need to make amends for. Like, I'm really clean with everybody, because I've learned that I don't disappear if I'm wrong. It's actually a beautiful thing to be wrong. Just kind of go, God, I'm something else, right? Thank you.
Sally Ann, thank you for putting your hand up. Uh-oh, I don't hear you. You're not coming through even though you're unmuted. Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute again. So sad. So sad. Okay. So we've got time for one more. I'm really, really sad that we can't hear Sally Ann. Does anybody else have a closing question? No? I want to just at a group level appreciate you, Nancy. We talk a lot more. Oh, Mary, our friend Mary, come on in.
I thought my hand was up before. My name's Mary, and I am a grateful alcoholic, living large in Maine, and I just loved your share. And the thing that really struck me was God sitting there with the balloons. That is like so incredibly beautiful to me. And I want to thank you for that image. God shows up every day for me. And I always refer to my God as a shapeshifter. I'm going to turn off my video because I think I might be having trouble. I always say God is a shapeshifter. God shows up to me in so many different ways. He's the person raging in front of me. He's the guy cutting me off. Sometimes he's me for someone else, And I want to know, when you are in a situation with family, I have a situation coming up where I have family I've got to go be with, and this family member crossed the line with my daughter, who shared it with me, and I'm like, you don't have to share this stuff with me because I really don't need to know. I do not want to share anything about this particular situation. with this woman that I'm staying with, my sister. But it's really hard for me. How do you deal with that ahead of time? Like, I know what I'm going into, and I have a
Yeah.
sponsor, and we've talked about it. The other thing I want to ask you is, do you have books that you read? Are there specific authors that you have a go-to when you're praying, etc.? Thank you. That's all I have. I think
Thank
I'm
you.
cutting out.
Well, I love Emmett Fox. He's just really love him. And I'm drawing a blank on another guy that maybe it'll come to me in a second. But if I'm in a situation where I have to, in a situation, first of all, that some of the stuff that you're talking about is very painful and it doesn't go away. However, my experience has been that no matter what the situation, we have to get to the other side of it through self-examination. We have to get peaceful, not because we might not stay sober if we don't. And that resentment for me, I could see that I was about to lose my sobriety on it. But having said that, I have been in situations where I'm not there yet. And so I have to act better than I feel. And so then I just open that door, like my sponsor says, and I let God go in first. And I'm light and polite. And I just try to be busy, being of service and try to stay away without being that judgmental pig pen with the dust coming off of me to where people can smell me, because that makes them want to retaliate against me. And I haven't even said anything, right? Do you know what I mean? Like they can see my big balloon come in and, I don't have to say it, but that I'm judging you, right? Maybe rightfully so. I mean, there may be rightful things that happened, but that's not our program, right? No matter what, we have to get to that other side. And there's no judgment on it, because I've been in situations where that thing with my husband took a long time to see myself on it. But I just have to act better than I feel. But I can't do it without letting God in first. I tell you what, So thank you.
Everyone, this has been lovely. Nancy, at a group level, I want to just say I adore you. Thank you for allowing me to be crazy with you and letting me know that I'm not alone on that ride. I want to turn the meeting back over to Michelle. And everybody, I look forward to seeing you guys next week.